I wasn't supposed to be making this video, but I almost killed my buddy. Don't sell a bike to your buddy that catches on fire. Yo, welcome back. So this is part 2 of the how I flip things video. And this is actually another thing that you're going to run into if you become popular within your friend group as far as flipping things, and they know you get the deals. So me getting this bike at what I got it for gives me a good profit margin to make on it, right? So I immediately grabbed it and I put it up for 7. Now I know I'm not going to get 7 for it. It needs a few little things, right? Like it needed the spokes fixed, which Warp 9 sent me out a bunch of the extra spokes and nipples, which is nice. I got a plug for it, a new battery. The blinkers need to get rewired, which is cheap. I threw on better grips and handguards. A few things, right? So it needed a little bit of love, a little bit of TLC, and that's kind of the best way to make your profit margin is buying something that doesn't need a crazy big repair. So what I'm getting at with what you'll run into is when you get popular with flipping is, since I put it up for 7, I've got 11 people that message me on Facebook interested, or they'll say, hey, is it available? And then they won't message you back. There's been 3 guys that seem pretty serious. They're just a little further away as far as driving to here. I think they're 2.5, 3 hours. So that competes with their seriousness. Sometimes they're like, oh, it's too far. And I've been in the same boat. However, since I cut hair, I'm a barber, and a lot of people were in here throughout the garage, it's easy for them to see what I'm working on next or what I have. So one of the guys that I cut, he's interested in the bike. Well, a couple of them are, but one of them's pretty serious. And so I got 2 offers this last weekend, just over 6K, and then I think it was 6,300 or something like that. And it's a great offer. I rather value getting a friend into the bike where I still make a little bit of a profit. But so here's the balancing act. So my buddy offered me 5,600, or we ended up agreeing on that. A guy that I cut, and then I got a couple offers on Facebook Marketplace around 63. So it's what the difference of $800, close to a G. It's not terrible, but fuck the $800 in my mind. If I have a guy that's been regularly spending money with me, getting his hair cut, coming to my garage, which again I'm not in the shop, right? So I'm already grateful for that. And if it gets him on a bike and he's able to ride around or whatever, pull up in his next cut, and it gets him in it cheaper than the other guy can get it, then I'm gonna hook my friend up. I'm still gonna make a little bit of profit on it, but now I just squeezed out what my potential profits could be, right? I could have made like 2,200 on the bike instead of just 1,500, but it is what it is. I'd rather get a friend into the bike. So that's what I'm getting at, what you will run into. So I was gonna throw a new rear tire on there. I'll leave that up to him. He's got the spokes. I'll let him have the new plug to throw that in there. But my favorite thing on these bikes is the short fronts. I don't love the big long dirt bike fender, and I'll keep it on, or I'll keep it with the bike for him. But my thing that I throw on my Supermoto, because it's full conversion in that way, is just drilling this and then fucking throwing this shorter fender on it. And it, for street, with the street tires, it looks way better. And for my car guys out there that follow the channel and they're not necessarily into watching bike stuff, I will tell you this: the benefit of getting into a bike, if you ever do, whether it be dirt bikes, street bikes, whatever it may be, the benefit is this: it is so simple to work on these things. It's way easier to deal with and start on a single piston motorcycle engine or the electronics that are on here versus going into a car. So it's kind of a good like a starting platform if you're not ready to fully tackle a car and everything. Oh, I love it already. Holy shit, it looks way fucking better. Yep. Even just the appearance over the front looks better, right? Little short look, and so that long ass fender hanging down. The side shot's better. I think this is my favorite look, is the side shot. Because now it looks like a straight up Supermoto track bike, which is what I like to make a lot of my vehicles look like, right? Like track stars that do not get onto the track, because I'm a bitch. Yeah, I'm way more of a fan than that one. Sweet! Dude, like small aesthetic, right? Makes it look fucking good. And it's chilling. And I don't know, you could run graphics, right? The other one has a little graphics lip up in the front, but it looks kind of dope if you ask me. Tits. And then he'll come and pick this up. Well, here we are. So, my buddy Josh came over to buy this on Friday, and nobody knows what the fuck happened exactly, but I've got a good idea now. And I feel terrible because it just seems so shitty and sketchy and yeah. So the bike caught fire, and I have been riding it for the last 2.5 weeks. There's honestly no explanation as to why it did besides a freak accident. And what I'm finding out is this. So I had the seat pulled because I was running the battery tender to it, giving the battery a charge. And before he came over, I pulled it off. I went and rode it, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, just making sure everything was okay, making sure suspension felt good, brakes, lights, whatever, etc., right? And yeah, I just fucking parked it, flipped off the bike, and then put it up here, and I had a few haircuts. And by the time he came, everything was all ready to go. I started the bike up for him, went and rode it down the driveway, and then he ended up riding up and down the street and did like a couple pulls, like literally, I don't know, a minute and a half later, and he's like, bro, get down here, there's a fucking fire on the bike. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I just rode it. What do you mean there's a fire? He goes, dude, like if you have a fire extinguisher or something? I'm like, what? So I rushed down there, and by the time I get down there, he has a neighbor down at the end of the street that's putting water on the bike, and he doused it, and so now I'm diving into the bike to see why the fuck it caught fire. And the only real explanation is this. So where the airbox mounts, see how torch that is right up in here. And the only thing that we're figuring out is by looking at the top of the seat, or the bottom of the seat, which is directly above the airbox, it looks like it started, which is the most melted part, on the ground side. And all these staples that are part of the leather are completely like fried off or gone. So when I was looking under the bike after we got the fire out, before we pulled the seat off, it didn't look like the terminals were there, or like the rubber boot covers. And so the only thing that makes, at least, again, freak accident, the only thing that makes sense is if this was like shorting out on one of the ground wires or the battery terminal against the frame and then sparking. So, but that wouldn't cause a fire, right? Like that's the only thing that doesn't make sense. Now, when you have at least this bike, it's a little, I guess, more touchy than the other bikes. This kickstand leans over a lot further, and when the gas is on, if I, like with it on right now, or the kickstand down, if I turn the fuel on, it's going to drip fuel just because of where how the float thing is set up in the car. So the only thing I can think of is if it was sparking while the bike was running, or if he stalled it down there and then he saw it smoking. If it was leaning over, or he threw the kickstand on and the bike's still running, or it's smoking, I think the fuel would have had vapors that came up and caught fire. I don't know. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's really the weirdest thing on the planet. But it's not too much damage. So I got to snag a new air box now, because this thing got all gross and melted, and I don't know if you'll be able to fucking see inside this thing. Let's see if we can, there we go. It's disgusting and plastic and smells like shit. So it's actually not terrible, but it just melted a little bit. Battery's fried, and then I got to do a little more cleanup on the wiring situation, which I'm okay with actually, because I didn't love how the bike was routed in the first place, and if it shorted out that easily, that's fucking sketch. So I'd rather assess it and fix it myself, and then make sure it's not sketchy to hand over to somebody else. Now the only thing that's fucking annoying though is so with flipping the bike, as this video would have turned into, now it cuts into profit margin and more time, right? It is what it is. But I definitely don't want to have a friend or a buddy buy this bike from me and then have this happen at their place, right? I'm a middleman, I'm passing off a bike that I'm buying and flipping, but I make sure, cars in general, I make sure I'm going through and make sure it's not going to be sketchy or this would happen. So, yeah, freak accident. It's the first for me, but it's fucking ridiculous. So I'm glad it happened here, though, before he took the bike home and then did it at his house, because that would have been one of the more sketchier feelings, let alone buyer's remorse through the fucking roof. I would have been pissed off had I been in his situation. I felt like I brought it home and the bike burned to the the ground. So I'm glad that we figured it out here. It stayed here, and then I can fix it. And if you still want Spidey, you can buy it. But yeah, really weird set of circumstances. So now we gotta dive in and rewire some shit.